Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Jay and welcome to the channel, and welcome back to October Lake in Planet Zoo, a project where we're building this really large wildlife park situated in the Canadian Highlands. In today's episode, we are going to be diving into the brand new North America animal pack with a habitat for some beavers. This new pack has been fantastic and I really hope you guys are going to enjoy the habitat builds that we're going to be doing with them. As always, if you do like the video, please do leave a like on the video, and of course do subscribe for more Planet Zoo content. With that all out of the way, let's talk about today's episode, which is a really fun one, I think. We're getting into that phase of October Lake where we're really quite running out of space. We don't actually have an awful lot of area left to build in. And just quickly before we go any further, on screen I'm just doing some random miscellaneous work before we actually get started on the habitat. But yes, we are running out of space in October Lake, as you can tell. The pack is going to be quite interesting to work around, and I think that's kind of a good thing in a lot of ways. I feel like when I am restricted in these ways, it's when I get kind of the most creative. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how we're going to incorporate all these North American animals into this park. The pack itself is fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. The animal choices are fantastic, really great choices. The beaver, the moose, I think those two are my favorites besides the American alligator, which is like my absolute top. It's beautiful. That is one of the most gorgeous animals I've seen in the game, period. So we're definitely going to have to do a habitat for that. We are going to do a habitat for all of them, I think, with the exception of maybe the Arctic fox, just because it might be a bit too cold weather looking for this area where it doesn't seem to snow an awful lot. Obviously, that doesn't mean we're not going to do it. We might. We just have to see how it goes. Prairie dogs as well, maybe not. Depends on how we really make all this work. Again, running out of space, but I'm sure we'll be alright. And yeah, I really love this pack. The free update as well, brought in some really cool stuff. I'm really enjoying a lot of the little UI changes. For example, if you go into the Zoopedia now, you can actually select the number of animals that you want to put in a habitat, and it'll show you the right amount of space you'll need. Stuff like that, really great stuff. I know, like lots of little quality of life changes. I love the new seating areas that come with the education talk things. So if you may notice back there by the penguin habitat, we actually did one of those, kind of like by using plaster pieces and stuff. But now we have an actual physical piece that's used for that, so that's really nice. And guests will sit on it and have an education bonus and stuff. So we'll definitely use more of that in the future going forward. We've got some new map changes as well. Now all the sandbox maps, you come with like a sculpted option or like a flat terrain option, which I really like, because I prefer working on maps which already have like some terrain sculpted into it. Hence why October Lake was built in one of the original campaign maps. So really great stuff. This beaver enrichment item, by the way, is one of the coolest things in the game. The beavers actually interact with it to like chew down the trees, which you might have seen in the opening, and they will actually pick up the little stick pieces and build dams. It's fantastic, and while I didn't get too much footage of that, we'll definitely return to it in the future to have a look and see how the beavers are getting on. It's really cool. I could genuinely just watch the beavers play around in it for ages. The beavers themselves are fantastic animals, just so good. Really needed in this park, and we need it in Planet Zoo because they're just such a classic animal. In all zoo games I've played, beavers have always been one of the OG animals that you'd find in the base roster. So it's really nice to have beavers in the game finally, and they're adorable. They're so cute, some of the cutest of these animals. So let's talk a little bit about them while we're building this habitat. So of course, beavers are actually rodents, very much like rats, mice. But they are, of course, a lot larger. They're the second largest species of rodent, the second largest genus of rodent, I should say, or family. They are only outclassed by the capybara, which, fingers crossed, I still hope comes into the game at some point because they're the best. They are also a zoo staple, but before I go on a tangent about capybaras, I'm going to keep talking about beavers. There are two types of beaver, of course. There's the North American beaver, which we have in the game. There's also European beaver, which has actually been recently reintroduced to the UK where I live. I believe somewhere further north, I can't remember where specifically, but they reintroduced some beavers to help with the ecology of the area, so that's quite cool. Beavers are quite chunky animals, get up to about 20 kilograms, but can get a bit bigger as well, up to 30 or so. sometimes even bigger if they're really chunky. They are cold weather animals for the most part. They have a thick layer of fat under the skin to kind of insulate them, because the water they swim in is generally speaking going to be quite cold. They are such unique animals. Of course, they're semi-aquatic. They've got that webbed back paws. They've got that flat big tail which you use as a paddle. Their forelegs are actually really like dexterous. Those little fingers of theirs, they really use them to kind of go about their day, pick up sticks for their dams, hold food. They can rotate things as they gnaw off the wood and stuff like that. So really cool. They are just super interesting animals, and like I said, adorable. If you look at their skeletons, their teeth are massive. You don't see them as much when you're looking at the live animal, because of course they're hidden a little bit by their mouth. But they have these massive powerful teeth, which of course are useful for building these dams. And of course, beavers are famous for building dams. They're one of those things which I always found interesting, because we only think of like humans essentially affecting the environment with the things we build. But a beaver building a dam can essentially engineer the environment around him completely unintentionally. Well, perhaps a little bit intentionally, but it's just incredibly fascinating. And we've seen some massive beaver dams in real life. I believe the largest one ever found was nearly 1 kilometer in length, more than half a mile, which is incredible and quite bonkers. It's just really fascinating. They of course use those dams to live in, but of course it's one of those really interesting things that I don't think really could have necessarily been implemented in Planet Zoo super well, if they wanted to go with that whole like, okay, these beavers can actually build full-on dams, because it would have to interact with the environment and the water, and it'd be quite tricky to maintain. But yeah, they actually enter the dams via underwater entrances, which is quite cool as well. So the dams are kind of like upturned bowls almost, with an entrance at the bottom where they can go into. So really cool stuff. They're just super interesting. They also even create canals where they can bite down logs, drop them into the canal, and the log will float all the way to wherever the dam is, which is just crazy fascinating. It seems like the sort of thing you need like human level intelligence to do, but absolutely not. These guys do it by instinct, and of course they are quite intelligent themselves, but they do have just this innate desire to engineer the environment, I guess, and it's really fascinating stuff. As to the actual purpose of the dams, I'm not actually sure about that one. I'll have to read a bit more about it, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it's something to do with maintaining their environment in a specific way that it would like. So they essentially will build a dam to maintain their little pond area, their territory, all specifically for them. I'm not 100% sure. That sounds like kind of what I've been, what I figured, but I'm not 100% sure. So we'll have to do a little bit more reading on that. Beaver's also known because they used to be hunted quite heavily to produce, to get castoreum, which is a specific, it's a material. It's produced by their anal glands, which is, yeah. People use that. People used to use that for what is it? Vanilla production, I believe. It is interesting. It's one of those things where I'm just like, oh, yeah, people really did that. Wow, people. But yes, it's quite funny. They used to use that to produce vanilla. Nowadays, not really. You can produce artificial castoreum, so they don't need to go hunting beavers. And also, just, yeah, one of those really odd things, isn't it? Anyways, that's a little bit about beavers. I hope you enjoyed learning about them. And what a note to end on, really. I could have chosen a little bit of a less visceral image to end on, but you know, sometimes there's going to be some weird things going on with the history of these animals and what people have done in terms of interacting with them or hunting them and stuff like that. Thankfully, they're not particularly endangered. They are slightly threatened, but not by an awful lot. They are still considered least concern, which is really good. I believe the Eurasian beaver, the European beaver, is also the same, but maybe slightly more threatened. But I'm not 100% sure. Anyways, going back to what's actually happening on screen, and our habitat, as you can see, it's mostly coming quite close to an end now. It has a little bridge that goes across it, and there's a higher level of water on one side, and I'm building now the little waterfall so that the water kind of trickles into the lower area, which is under the bridge, and where the beavers can actually crawl under the bridge, swim through the water, and end up on the other side. Initially I thought it might have been too low, but the beavers seem to do just fine with it, so they end up engaging with both sides of the habitat pretty well. Of course, very rocky habitat, but also with some like nice flat areas for the beavers to hang out in, and plenty of water for them to swim in. A little staff area back here. One thing I've been doing a lot more recently is making sure that every single habitat has at least a small staff area attached to it. Whether or not there's actually a building in there or it's just implied, because I think it's nice to see that. In real zoos, of course, most habitats that you see will be attached to some sort of staff area. And speaking of zoos in real life, I'll actually be going back to London Zoo next week, or actually no, this weekend, because they have a new Galapagos giant tortoise habitat, so I'm excited to go see that. Those guys are adorable, and they posted this super cute video on Twitter. I don't know if I mentioned this in a previous video, but they got the tortoises to walk from one end of the zoo to their new habitat by like guiding them with like carrots and stuff, and it was the cutest thing. But yeah, I'm excited to see that new habitat. That was just a little tangent. But yeah, in real life zoos, a lot of habitats will have staff areas attached to them. Just, you know, reasonable, because of course you want the staff to be able to access the animals in relatively short notice, as quick as possible. So it's good to have that, and I think it just fills out the zoo quite well, and I really like how it looks. As far as the rest of this habitat goes, it's pretty much what you see here. I'm going to build a little bit of a canopy on top of the bridge, but that's pretty much it. Just doing some final little bits around the walling between the glass and the pavement area. Well, I'll use a bit of like the timber pieces, I think, specifically, which end up working quite well. And of course, just a bit more foliage. I love using these cattails, the weeds over there. They look really good, and I think I haven't actually used them enough in the zoo. I'll probably use more of them because they are quite a staple of like North American aquatic landscapes. So it'd be nice to include them more as we go forward. And yeah, we're coming quite close to the end now. So speaking about what we're going to be doing in the future, so we do have 8 animals in the pack. I'll probably include something like 6 of them in this park build, because we really are running out of space. I will include the bullfrog as well, because of course it's an exhibit animal and it will fit very nicely into our reptile house. I might replace the Goliath frog with that, because, you know, as much as I love the Goliath frog, we've used it everywhere. So let's use the bullfrog, and it looks like a really nice habitat too, because exhibit, because it's aquatic, so the bullfrogs actually swim around a little bit, which is nice. Besides that, I think the next habitat will probably try and do something with the moose, because it is a beautiful animal. I need to find a place for the alligators as well, because I am not including them. They're fantastic, incredible animals, and they fit the landscape really well and stuff like that. So I have to find a place for the alligators, but they're 100% going to be included. The sea lions actually might be a bit trickier to include, so they might get cut, and might save it for future builds at some other point, you know, with another part. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. The other animals I'm more than happy to include, and I'm quite excited to include as well, so definitely look forward to that. Also, we got those little new birch pieces, like the white birch like branches, which are really small, and they look really nice scattered about. Just adding in some additional detailing here now, just finishing up the habitat. Which animal am I forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting an animal out of the 7. So Arctic fox, prairie dog, American alligator, moose, beaver, sea lion. Okay, so I didn't forget any. Well, yeah, the moose is going to be in the next episode, probably. I love moose. They're so cool. They're just so big and so interesting, and they look stunning in the game. Like, I've just had a look at them, like, just quite quickly by putting down one. And those antlers, the fur, oh, just the team making Planet Zoo always blow it out of the water. So good, so good. Just huge props to them. Always do a fantastic job. So, you know, I'm looking forward to the future of Planet Zoo. I have a good feeling about the future after this pack. For some reason, I feel now like I'm just excited. Whatever they come out with next, you know, like more DLCs, whatever they may be, I am excited for them. You know, I've always been excited for them, but now even more so because the quality of the animals here has been tremendous. So yeah. Anyways, that's it for today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about Beavers and listening to my thoughts on the pack. A new episode will be dropping either next week or at the end of this one, really depending on my schedule. My old schedule's kind of gone out the window, so we'll see how long it takes for me to come up with a reasonable new one. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Do like the video if you did like the video. Stay tuned for the cinematics to see our adorable beavers hanging out and enjoying the habitat. Do subscribe for more Planet Zoo content, and as always, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!